like to let everybody know that information packets as well as the environmental document and preliminary plans for this project are available at the DPW website listed on the slide if you'd like to be able to access those now. The hearing will consist of this formal presentation followed by a public comment opportunity. The hearing is not a question and answer session, so we'll be happy to stick around afterwards to answer any questions you might have, but we will try to get through the public comments first. So briefly, what we'll cover here is the project purpose and need, the compliance with the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, which requires federal agencies to assess environmental impacts for proposed federal actions. And this project received received funding from the Federal Highway Administration. Since, as it might be apparent, the 30th Street Bridge is a historic bridge, we follow the Historic Bridge Programmatic Agreement, so we'll go over that. We'll go over the preliminary preferred alternative, that is the project scope and details, some of the project impacts, and then we'll open it up for public comment. So this environmental document, or the NEPA document, was a level 4 categorical exclusion. Projects that qualify as categorical exclusion do not have the potential to cause significant impact on the environment individually or cumulatively per NDOT and federal highway guidance. This project was a level 4 due to the involvement of the historic bridge, which automatically triggered this public hearing. To advertise the hearing, a notice was published in the Indianapolis Star on January 18th and January 25th. And notifications were sent by email and mail to area residents, consulting parties, and other project stakeholders. If you didn't get a direct notice for this hearing but would like to receive future updates on the project, please do provide us an address at which you can be contacted. So again, the project documents, including the environmental document and preliminary plans, are available at the DPW website. They're also available by appointment at the BFNS office and the Indianapolis Department of Public Works office at 1200 Madison Avenue. And I will post all that contact information again later if you want to get it. So purpose and need for the project. The need for the project is the bridge's current condition. Concrete core sampling in the arches, abutments, and piers found high levels of chloride, as well as a high likelihood of scale corrosion in all of the arch spans. The bridge travel lane, curb offset, and clear roadway width do not meet the current Indiana design manual standards. The existing bridge rail is not crash tested and has a couple of sections that are completely missing, mostly due to impact damage. In addition, the 30th Street Bridge project was identified as a need in the 2017 Riverside Regional Park Master Plan, which noted the bridge is the only pedestrian crossing of the White River in the Riverside Park area. So the purpose of the project is to maintain that pedestrian vehicular crossing at this location for at least 25 years, to address the condition of the bridge and raise that condition rating to a very good, or at least an 8 out of 9 from currently it's 5. And also to address the damage in non-crash tested railing. Brief history of the bridge. 30th Street Bridge is listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2003 as part of the Indianapolis Boulevard System, Park and Boulevard System. The City Beautiful Bridge, the City Beautiful movement was a larger urban planning philosophy aimed at improving urban aesthetics, popular at the turn of the 20th century. This particular bridge was built in 1908. It's a Milan arch, which is an important predecessor to reinforced concrete. The bridge cladding and railing are Indiana limestone. And the bridge historically has had lighting fixtures, 5 globe lighting fixtures along both sides. And then the promenades, although the lights that are currently there were installed about 1980. The bridge is classified as select in DOT's Indiana Historic Bridge Inventory, which classifies publicly owned bridges built before 1965. Select bridges are considered excellent examples of their type and suitable candidates for preservation. So the NEPA process as a whole covers a wide range of subject areas, including right-of-way acquisition, endangered, threatened, and rare species, floodplains, streams, wetlands, and waterways, cultural resources, community impacts, and opportunities for public involvement. As recorded in the draft environmental document, so the project impacts are as following. There's no right-of-way acquisition plan for this project, so it will take place within the city's existing right-of-way. Approximately 118 linear feet of impacts to the White River from the installation of riprap for scour protection. And the White River is listed on the outstanding rivers list for Indiana and is a navigable waterway. So best management practices will be applied to minimize impacts to the river, including erosion control blankets, inlet protectors, and temporary seeding. Since the 38th Street Bridge is a historic bridge, as I mentioned, we follow the historic bridge project development process in terms of impacts to the bridge itself. Other cultural resources were evaluated according to Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966, and the determination there was that there would be no adverse effect to the rest of the Indianapolis Park and Boulevard system. There's evidence of barn swallow nests on the bridge. Barn swallows are protected species under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, so avoidance and minimization measures will be implemented prior to and during nesting season. Access to adjacent properties will be able to be maintained during this project, but maintenance of traffic, which includes pedestrians and watercraft, will require the use of a detour, which we'll look at in more detail in a bit. So the historic bridge project development process entails a detailed analysis of alternatives as required by Section 4F of the U.S. Department of Transportation Act of 1966 in order to determine a feasible and prudent alternative for the project. The preliminary preferred alternative determined by this analysis for this project is full rehabilitation of the 30th Street Bridge, not meeting the Secretary of the Interior standards. The following consulting parties participated in the development process: the State Historic Preservation Officer, or SHPO, Indiana Landmarks, the Indianapolis Historic Preservation Commission, the Miami Tribe of Oklahoma, Marian University, and Riverside High School. Consulting party meetings were held on September 4th, 2019, December 10th, 2019, and March 12th, 2020. Largely to discuss the proposed replacement of the Milan Arch, which has historic engineering significance, the desired addition of a crash-tested bridge rail, and the bridge lighting, which are also important aesthetic characteristics of defining a historic bridge. 4 different alternatives were analyzed in depth. Alternative A, no build or do nothing, which, as it sounds, would mean no work would take place. Alternative B1, rehabilitation for continued vehicular use, meeting the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, which are a set of criteria intended to keep a project consistent with the historic significance and characteristics of the affected properties. This alternative would involve rehabilitating the existing Milan Arch. Alternative B2A, limited rehabilitation, not meeting the Secretary of the Interior standards, would involve patching of the existing arch. And the preliminary preferred alternative, or alternative B2B, the rehabilitation, full rehabilitation for continued vehicular use, not meeting the Secretary of the Interior standards, will involve replacing the Milan Arch with a reinforced concrete arch. A number of factors were considered in evaluating the alternatives, including effects to the historic bridge, such as the loss of original design and materials, the ability of the alternative to meet the project's purpose by sufficiently raising the structure rating for at least 25 years. If the alternative would be able to include the desired pedestrian amenities, such as the crash-tested rail to separate vehicles from pedestrians, as well as the overall cost of each alternative. So following the determination of a preliminary preferred alternative, project impacts were documented into a draft environmental document, that categorical exclusion I mentioned earlier, which was approved by INDOT for public involvement on November 20th, 2020. Now we're at the public hearing stage. We had the in-person yesterday and the virtual today, which will be followed by a 15-day comment period ending on February 18th, after which the environmental document will be revised to reflect and respond to public comments. NDOT and Federal Highway will approve the final document when they determine all comments have received an adequate response. In addition, after the conclusion of the State Historic Preservation Officer will continue to review and comment on plans up to the final plan stage. And I'm going to turn it over to Brian, who's going to go over some more actual details of the project scope.
Great, thank you. So for those that have been to the 30th Street actual structure itself, you know, for as old as the structure is, it's got severe degradation, salt infiltration from loss of actual blocks themselves, to just general wear and tear that's gone over for the life of the structure. So obviously the main goal is to rehabilitate the existing structure in the essence of safety, but at the exact same time, we want to upgrade the current standards for the state highway. So our main goal is we want to reuse as many portions of the existing structure as we can. We want to salvage as many of the limestone blocks. We want to salvage as many portions of the existing abutments, and we want to salvage as many portions of the features, including the rail and the spandrel wall. So our overall goal on this is we're going to actually remove the structure down to the existing foundations, reuse the existing foundations, patch them, clean them up, and then we're going to replace portions of the existing arch with a precast concrete arch option. Once we have done this, we will then painstakingly begin to reassemble the entire arch piece by piece, utilizing the existing limestones that were on the existing arch currently. We will rebuild the existing rail out of limestone, and then essentially when the project is complete, the existing bridge will look like it did previously. In addition to this, we will be updating the existing arch as well by improving the travel lane width and the multi-use paths for pedestrians. We'll be increasing the travel lane width to 11 foot wide. We'll be increasing the safety of the existing bridge by installing a crash-worthy barrier rail that is in between traffic and the sidewalks. This is a similar rail that was utilized on the Central Avenue Bridge. And in addition to this, we'll be updating the width of the multi-use paths on each side of the structure. So this will allow enhanced pedestrian safety and will also improve crossings over the structure. In addition to the work that we're performing on the bridge, we'll also be performing work down below on the structure. We'll be installing riprap, which is large stones, in and around the existing piers to protect it from scour and heavy rainfall events down below. We'll be cleaning up the existing ivy and patching areas in and around the steps and the promenade areas at each end of the structure as well. And then we'll be trying to maintain the remaining portions of the existing structures to the best of their capacity. During construction, there will be a temporary causeway installed on the northern side of the bridge. The contractor will be required to install either a temporary bridge or a temporary stone causeway that will go out roughly halfway across the existing waterway to allow him to access portions of the structure for either demolition of the existing bridge or to install new portions on the bridge itself. During construction, you can't really build the concrete arch in two phases, so the bridge has to be built all at the same time. What this means for the local public and the motoring public is that we'll have to install a detour. The detour route shown on the pages is our current plan using 421 and Kessler Boulevard. This will be the official detour for the project site. It'll be signed, and the contractor signage will be directing traffic to and from this area. No vehicles will be allowed across the bridge, and no pedestrian traffic will be allowed across the bridge. So for pedestrian traffic, we've established a pedestrian traffic detour as well. The detour that is being used for pedestrian traffic allows for bicycles and pedestrian traffic on sidewalks. The area chosen for this detour allows for 5 foot wide bicycle paths for bicyclists or cyclist safety, and it also allows adequate sidewalk width for pedestrians willing to bypass the project site. So just like before with vehicles, pedestrians will not be able to access across the structure as well. For boat traffic in canoeists underneath the structure, contractor will be required to keep a channel or waterway open during construction to allow for the safe passage of canoes and recreational boating traffic. During a time period where the channel must be closed completely, the contractor will be required to provide a portage site, which will allow the safe passage of recreational vehicles and canoeists passage across the structure as well. All right, and then roughly up here, we have the anticipated project schedule. In July, the design will be complete. We'll be turning in 90% plans in and around April of this year. And the project is scheduled to be open for public bids in September of 2021. What this means is that the contractor will likely begin mobilizing and anticipating the start of construction in the winter of 2021 in the early months of 2022. And like the Central Avenue structure, we're anticipating construction to take 2 construction seasons to complete for the amount of work on this bridge. So you'll see work wrapping up in the winter of 2023, possibly pushing into final seeding and planting plans in the spring of 24. I'll let Elizabeth finish the last piece here.
So bear with me for just a minute. As I said, no right-of-way acquisition is anticipated for this project, but I just have to mention that all federal, local, and state governments must comply with the Uniform Relocation Real Property Acquisition Act of 1970, which requires an offer for just compensation on any property acquisition. If you're interested in the right-of-way or relocation process in general, more information is available at those federal highway links, or I can get you a copy of those documents if you like. So there are a number of options for commenting. In a minute here, we'll open it up for comments as part of this virtual hearing. You can either make a verbal comment or you can type one in the comment box. You can also create a written comment after this hearing. We have comment forms available on the DPW website as part of the public involvement information packet. Or you can write a free-form email or a letter to me at the address listed on the screen. Please feel free to use any and all of those methods, but remember that the comment period ends February 18th. As I said, the comments will be addressed in the final environmental document, both the statements from yesterday, from this evening, and then received up until February 18th. Informal comments and discussion are always welcome, but do note that general conversations are not usually part of the official record. All right, so unless I've missed anything, I think we can go ahead and open it up for public comments. If you'd like to speak, if you could go ahead and write that in the chat box, and then we can unmute you and let you say your comment.
There's a chat room somewhere there. There's chat, all right. So all attendees.
I'm not seeing anything. Are you, Janelle?
No, I'm not. Does anyone have wish to make any kind of public statement about the project?
Okay, please feel free then to submit written comments until February 18th. I guess I will end the formal portion of the public hearing, but if anybody would like to ask any questions at this time, we'd be happy to take those as well. All right, well, I'm not seeing anything, but of course you can also contact me to ask questions later. Our contact information is here on the screen. I'll leave that for a minute, but otherwise, thank you again, everybody, for your time this evening and for your patience with my technical issues. You know, have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. If you have any questions, we have contact information at the end of the presentation. And as I stated before, if you have any questions during construction, prior to or during construction, please utilize my contact information to ask any of those questions, and we'll be happy to get those answers to you as soon as we can. Thank you for attending tonight, and we look forward to a wonderful project, a wonderful bridge when this is completed. And we just thank you for attending this evening. Thank you.